Definitely radio, according to you. Our pillars, simple and plain: motivation, entertainment, spirituality, and current affairs. And this is how we continue to be able to do radio, according to you. Good morning and welcome. Time for us to check out moments in current affairs. Let's look at what some of the burning issues and the stories are out there. The National Prosecuting Authority has reportedly rejected motivational speaker Vusi Thembekwayo's request for mediation. The request follows domestic violence allegations involving his wife, Palisa Maketa, in late 2021. The NPA has reportedly taken a decision to criminally prosecute Vusi Thembekwayo, who is expected to appear in the Randburg Magistrates Court in November. The best-selling author has vehemently denied assaulting Maketa. Following the alleged incident, Thembekwayo released a statement saying, "I can confirm that I flew back to South Africa on the 6th of December 2021 from an international trip to attend to a situation pertaining to my wife and her long-standing battle with substance abuse. The matter appeared in court this week and has been remanded and is being defended. It has come to my attention that media tabloids have shared news and that myself and my family are currently going through a difficult period. As noted on a retweet, I have been off social media accounts for a week dealing with a difficult private family matter that requires my urgent attention. To address the news firsthand, I can confirm that I flew back." That's the quote that I just came up with as well. And he says, "As it stands, I maintain my innocence and will prove this in the appropriate forum and trust the Justice Department to deal with it accordingly. I've always been an advocate for the equality, committed to eradicating all forms of gender-based violence, and I believe my record speaks for itself." So Thembekwayo in a bit of hot water, wondering how that will end up for him. Anyway, let's keep our eyes peeled, because at the end of the day, matters of national importance, including that of gender-based violence, we must always keep those things very close to our attention. One of the wealthiest men in the country has been blamed for the Jagersfontein Dam disaster, which has left 4 people dead and a reported 70 others injured. A wall of the dam burst last week Sunday, and houses and vehicles were swept away. At least 300 people in the mining town have been displaced, prompting government intervention. There has since been growing calls for the owners of the mine to be held accountable. It was previously owned by Rupert Raynet Investments, but the company sold Jagersfontein assets to Star Gems Holdings, a global diamond cutting and polishing company. Now, according to the news, community leaders claim that Johan Rupert bribed and intimidated residents and employees at Jagersfontein after they had raised concern with the dam wall. Lifa Shale has told the publication that they had been warning since 2019, but nothing was done. The bribery is not an allegation, it is a fact. I am a community leader and I know about some of the leaders who were bribed. The community would raise these concerns and ask leaders to organize a meeting with Rupert, but the leaders would go on their own and tell Rupert what the community is planning. I know that he has been giving these leaders envelopes. Meanwhile, Thandi Molefe, also a resident of Jagersfontein, said, in part, "We have been protesting and fighting, but some of the leaders were bribed. Today, my furniture has been destroyed while some people lost their homes and cars. Some family members, loved ones, lost their lives, all because of this bribery." Very, very, very bad taste that must leave in the mouth, because this means that, again, the focus is all about the bottom line and lives of people come second. A taxi owner was shot in front of his house in Mbale, Mpumalanga, but it was revealed that it was his wife behind the murder, and she hired hitmen to kill her husband. Now, back in 2011, De Villiers Dan Zulu, a taxi owner, was shot in front of his gate at an extension 15 in Mbalenhle. Police opened a case of murder, which was transferred to the Secunda Hawks Serious Organized Crime Unit and for further investigation. The intelligence-driven probe established that his wife, Tembisa Zulu, hired 2 hitmen, Hawks spokesperson Captain Dineo Lucy Sekgotodi. It was further established that on the day in question, the deceased had phoned his wife while at the gate. After opening the gate, the hitman fatally wounded the victim and fled the scene. But instead, it was Sitsa, David Mufokeng, and Christopher Motsubane, who was 47 years old, who had gunned down the deceased at his home, said Sekgotodi. The hitmen, including his wife, Zulu, appeared on Friday in the Delmas High Court. Mufokeng was found guilty of murder and unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition. Matsubane and the wife, Zulu, were found guilty of murder and conspiracy to commit a crime. The sentencing of the three convicted murderers will be heard on the 22nd of September. The three have, however, remained in custody. As we continue, the TV personality's 10 million rand company, Modi Dlamini Marketing and Skincare range of products, MD by Mini Dlamini, appears to have disappeared after hitting the shelves in 2019. The question is, what happened to Mini's 10 million rand company and skincare range? City Press reports that the media personalities reported 10 million rand Modi Dlamini Marketing, which produced her product range, MD by Mini Dlamini, had outstanding annual tax returns for the third time since it was registered in 2016, though it was unclear how much she owed SARS. The publication adds that the skincare range was sold at ShopRite before it disappeared from the shelves, and the Instagram account website has been deleted, and the Facebook and Twitter accounts haven't posted for ages. Dlamini's company was also deregistered in 2018 and again in 2020 for not submitting annual tax returns. It is believed the homegrown TV personality received numerous emails before the company was flagged for deregistration due to non-compliance with SARS regulations. Now, the TV star was also trolled on social media after revealing in a Destiny magazine interview that she received a 10 million rand grant from the Industrial Development Corporation, the IDC, to cover the startup costs that her skincare range would make money back within the year. Our engagements with the IDC were pretty painless because my partner's been dealing with them for a long time, so I was just a case of creating a new joint company for the deal, she said. She later changed her statement by releasing a statement saying the grant was a loan that she had to repay. It says, in my Destiny cover magazine, I was quoted as saying I received a grant from the IDC for my new business. I, in fact, applied for a loan payable with interest, which is still pending due to my error. My apologies for any confusion caused. For the record, the mistake was entirely mine, and I apologize. Well, that's from one entertainer's problems to another's. South African musician Dr. Malinga is coming out of his financial rut thanks to his supporters and fellow musicians who have banded together to help him after he opened up about his struggles on an episode of Matt G's podcast and Chill. Speaking during a recent interview, Malinga shared how everyone was collectively able to raise 100,000 rand, which he has paid towards his house, which was on the verge of being taken away by SARS. The singer also opened up on his financial education and how the revenue service must do its part to keep people updated. Good news for those concerned about Dr. Malinga and his dire financial situation. His house has been saved for now. Dr. Malinga's real name is Goodwill Malinga, spoke to a publication about how he used the donations he received to pay SARS, which will keep them at bay. According to Malinga, around 100K has been raised by local celebrities and fans. He said, we have raised 100,000 through the donations of 10, 13, and 1 rand and 1,500 rand, and artists donated many things, including bookings. He also explained that he handed it all over to SARS and still owes around about 300K. The singer who opened up about his financial struggles, according to him, they will need to do more than show up and repossess people's properties. They can do a better job of teaching people how to file effectively. That's very important, especially when artists who have very little financial education are given sums of money which they are not used to handling. There's a lot that can go wrong, and so there needs to be an academic process that really, really, really does assist in that regard. Good morning to Mboniseli Funani. He's in Beacon Bay and is saying goeiemorgen to everybody out there as well. So, Ukrainian troops are apparently fighting back, and they are MacGyvering their way through, really pushing Russia back. And we never thought we'd see it that way because of how aggressive things were happening, how aggressively things were happening in the beginning of the war. It has kind of done a whole 180 as the Ukrainians are really, really pushing back and taking more and more of the towns back that were invaded by Russia. So we'll have to watch that closely and see what's happening. Eskom says chances of further escalation of load shedding remain high as the power system remains severely constrained. The grid has been under pressure for the past week, with the power utility implementing rolling power cuts at short notice. On Sunday morning, South Africans woke up to the news that Eskom implemented stage 6 load shedding for the second time this year. The power utility says the breakdown of generation units has necessitated the escalation. Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter, briefing the media on Sunday, said that while some generation units are anticipated to return to service, it is necessary to protect the emergency generation reserves and begin to replenish for the week ahead. So, Eskom has been crippled by a week of large-scale breakdowns at the coal-fired power stations. The power utility says the pressure system has been under severe pressure, adding that they are at a point where they urgently need to replenish. So, Eskom has reminded South Africans that power cuts are implemented as a last resort to protect the national grid and have vowed to provide regular updates. That doesn't say much. That does not say much. What we do know is that the electricity crisis is not something that's going to go away anytime soon until a real solution can be found. Ukwad Mlandu says, reality on the issue of SARS filing effectively is a true need for training and equipping people. Thank you so much for that as well, because a lot of people don't understand that the better you can equip somebody with the education, then the easier it is to hold them accountable when they are empowered to understand that it's a necessity to do certain things. But the filing thing, definitely. There needs to be some programs. SARS, I hope you're listening. There needs to be some education, especially for people who go from one tax bracket to the next and have to handle large sums of money that they have never had to handle before, and the responsibility of keeping themselves financially sound in the same process. It has been learned that a confidant of the late Zulu monarch King Goodwill Zwelithini and his son King Misuzulu was assassinated on Saturday evening, the 17th of September. According to SABC News, 76-year-old Dr. Dumsani Khumalo was accosted outside his home in Nongoma, KwaZulu-Natal, after returning from taking part in the contested annual Zulu Reed dance at Nkonyeni Place. The public broadcaster says Khumalo's death was confirmed by King Misuzulu's spokesperson, Prince Thulani Zulu. Dr. Dumsani Khumalo, a senior of the Osuthu Royal Council, was close with the Zulu royal family and even came to King Misuzulu's KwaZulu-Natali's aid during the fight to take over his late father's throne after his rival, Prince Smagate, bid to wear the crown. Khumalo leaves behind 2 wives and 4 children. According to the king, the current king relied heavily on Khumalo for advice, including performing specific rituals, one of them being to enter the sacred royal kraal, which was performed last month. King Misuzulu's coronation is scheduled to take place on the 29th of October. The road to victory wasn't easy for the king, as several members of the royal family fiercely challenged his ascension to the throne. AmaZulu princesses Ntando Yenkosi Zulu and Ntombi Zosuthu Zulu Duma, who even applied to urgently interdict King Misuzulu's KwaZulu-Natali's coronation ceremony, but this was struck off the roll. Judge Thomas Ncube of the High Court in Pietermaritzburg, made this decision about the pre-coronation ceremony, which was underway at the time. Lawyers for the 2 princesses requested that the interdict the premier, so no further public funds were used. President Cyril Ramaphosa's legal representatives, advocate Marumo Moerane, argued that there was no urgency in the application. It's 24 minutes now before 10 a.m. After an urgent meeting with the ministers and officials, the president is on his way back to South Africa to deal with the stage 6 load shedding crippling the country. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa has cut short his international travels to fly home to deal with the Eskom power crisis. His decision follows an urgent virtual meeting that he called with all the relevant cabinet ministers and senior officials on the 18th of September yesterday. There has been growing political pressure for Ramaphosa to return to South Africa to deal with the power crisis precipitated by several Eskom power units tripping and forcing the parastatal to introduce stage 6 power cuts. Ramaphosa met U.S. President President Joe Biden on Friday flew to London ahead of the Queen Elizabeth's funeral. He was scheduled to return to New York after the funeral to attend to his week's high-level opening segment of the annual United Nations Assembly session, but his spokesperson Vincent Magwenya announced that this Sunday President Ramaphosa changed his plans. We'll see what the results of that might be. I don't know. I don't see a solution. I don't think the leadership that has been in place, whether it's at ESCOM or even other, key areas and key power points, key points, have figured out what direction they want to take. And it's sad because this is affecting the bottom line and affecting the average South African even worse. In a grim case of like father, like son, Abdul Talib Bunzair has been murdered in Cape Town, the suburb of Manenberg, barely 3 years after his father and former Hard Living's gang boss Rashid Stahi was shot. Criminal accusations tailed Abdul Talib Bunzair, known as Dula, much as they did his father Rashid Stahi and his uncle Rashad Stahi. And now, like with his father and uncle, Bunzair is dead. He was murdered on the evening of Saturday, 17th of September. Also, asked to confirm the killing, Western Cape Police spokesperson Colonel Andre Trout, without naming who was murdered, said at about 9:45 p.m., a 34-year-old man was shot and killed in Beatrix Court, Manenberg, by an unknown suspect in what we believe was gang-related incident. The circumstances surrounding the incident are being investigated by the police, and its suspect is yet to be apprehended. Bunzair had previously been under investigation for several crimes. It is also understood that he turned on some associates, detailing certain criminal activities to police investigators. A few years ago, there were also suspicions of tensions between Bunzair and Stahi. When does it end? When does it end? Finally, and further afield, in this beautiful but sometimes troubled continent of Africa, Matthias Pogba, who's 32 years old, was indicted for extortion in organized gang and participation in a criminal association, said the judicial source. According to a source close to the investigation, he was placed under more favorable status of witness for the fact and of sequestration in the night of the 19th to 20 March. He was placed in a pre-trial detention. Now, justice notes that the most serious offense charged is kidnapping, does not concern my client, and unfortunately, we have a decision that goes against the case. This is an individual who has never been talked about, who has a clean criminal record, who is not a thug, who is presumed innocent. In front of the judge of freedoms and detention, Matthias Pogba was massive in a lightweight gray tracksuit, seemed very concentrated. The four other suspects, relatives of Paul Pogba's brothers, aged 27 and 36, have been indicted for extortion with a weapon, kidnapping in an organized gang, and criminal conspiracy. Three of the men have been remanded in custody. The fourth requested a delay and was provisionally incarcerated pending the debate before the JLD. Oh man, this is bad. In the same way as Paul Pogba, my client claims to be a victim in this case. The instruction will have to make light of this aspect. The role of Matthias Pogba is not yet totally clear, and the investigation is far from over. That brings us to the end of our moment in current affairs, and we continue doing this until 12 when Piwe comes in with the invasion, and she'll be doing it until 3 when Miss Lelu and DJ LT come in and show us where to drive.
Ladies and gentlemen,